What is going on, guys? We are back playing some more Surviving with Create 0.3, and today we are going to be automating the production of Builder's Tea. Now, for those of you that do not know, Builder's Tea is a relatively useful consumable that Create adds into the game, and it comes with two benefits. The first one is the major one, and that is a 3-minute haste buff. So you can basically think of it like a super simple potion of swiftness. It also gives back 0.5 haunches of hunger, so really not that much. Obviously, we're just sipping on some tea, so it's nothing crazy. It's not a steak dinner or anything. A little bit insensitive to say as I'm looking at a cow right there, but it's true. So you still get that from it, which is a nice secondary benefit. And then on top of that, the coolest part is it stacks up to 16. So you basically are getting a stackable potion of swiftness, which is super great because if you're like me, obviously I have a very clean inventory right now, but that is going to change in like 3 minutes. It's going to be totally full. I'm going to be trying to decide what I can ditch and what I can't. And so being able to have a stackable potion of swiftness is definitely super nice. It's not going to totally fill up my inventory if I want to have a decent uptime on it. And I'm going to be able to get pretty much an hour of haste if I wanted to for one inventory slot. And then I get a little bit of food too, but that's basically just a joke at this point. So I definitely think it's super cool. I'm excited to make this build. It's going to be huge. It's going to be crazy. It's going to take up this whole room. So it's going to probably be a little bit of a longer video today, just warning you guys, even though I know majority of you actually like that. So you always tell me I don't need to apologize for that. You're excited to see it. But I also know that you guys have been requesting this for quite some time now. Last episode especially, one of the most highly upvoted comments was that you wanted to see how I would automate Builder's Tea, and especially how I would fully automate it, because some people, or I should say most people, do not fully automate it. They either think it's very difficult and not worth it or impossible to do it because of how it requires certain different materials to be put in to make it. We'll be going over that in a little bit, but I am up to the challenge. We are fully automating this today, and we will then have all the Builder's Tea we could possibly need, which is definitely good. I am more of a coffee drinker, I will say, but I'm excited to have a nice refreshing beverage to reward myself with after we finish these crazy long builds, including this one today. Taking the first sip of Builder's Tea will be a nice reward. And I'm thinking it's going to be okay to switch out coffee for tea in this case because it's clearly loaded with caffeine, which is what I need, since we're getting a 3-minute haste buff. So we're just going to make the assumption that this thing is basically just totally caffeine and it is an acceptable substitute for coffee. I know you guys will probably think I'm crazy. A lot of you guys prefer tea over coffee, but I'm a coffee drinker, and so unfortunately we don't have the option of Builder's coffee, so we're going with this one as a nice secondary substitute. So before we jump into the requirements for today's episode really quickly, I just want to say that we are currently over here because there are so many that they actually require at least 2 trips to bring over here. So I figured we just start out the episode over here today. And this is the room we're going to be setting it up in. It's obviously nothing crazy fancy. I know we've been having discussions recently about all the different, visual appeal of the rooms, and some of you think they're great, some of you don't. You guys have been pretty much really nice to me about saying that my building has been good, but I figured we can all agree on one thing, and that it is Create looks awesome. I don't think anyone's going to argue with that, so I figured, you know what, why fight it? Why try to cover up the automated stuff? Instead, we are going to be using that to our advantage, so this hallway right here will lead to other rooms in the future because we're running out of space in the rest of the base. But for now, we're going to be able to see the entire process. There's a lot going on here, and it'll basically be like the hibachi equivalent of watching our Builder's Tea get made. And I'm a fan of the hibachi, and I know it's a little bit overpriced, but you know what? I think it's cool. So this will basically be the equivalent of that, which will be nice. And so the room here is relatively simple, but this is going to be used for assembling the entire setup, and then we can watch the entire thing happen. So hopefully you guys think that's a cool idea. And in the end, we're just going to have a little area right over here to grab our thing of Builder's Tea and continue on our way. It is the American way to basically treat it like fast food. And so we're just going to come have a quick pit stop, grab something that will clearly be loaded with sugar, and go on our way as we gain 50 pounds from consuming this and nothing else. But that is enough rambling. That was a lot. And now we are going to jump into the requirements for today's episode. Before we go into the chest, I will say one requirement. You need a cow. So this poor guy over here is going to end up trapped and giving us infinite milk. I am sorry, bud. I made the insensitive comment about steak dinners, and now we're going to be using you trapped in a 1x1 area for milk. But you know what? That's his fate. Unfortunately, that's just how the cookie crumbles. And then for item requirements, they are right here. And oh my God, what a doozy this one is going to be. So to go through this, we are going to need 2 redstone links, 3 redstone repeaters, a redstone torch, a mechanical saw, 13 deployers, 13 linear chassis, a sticky mechanical piston, 3 piston extension poles, a gear shift, an adjustable repeater, 3 mechanical belts, 11 shafts, 3 smart chutes, a regular chute, 2 cactus, 2 sand. You could substitute these with lava, but obviously I have a very burnable base around me right now, so probably not the best idea. Not one that I almost did it. I will say I almost did it, but I realized when I was prepping that this base was going to burn. So we're not going to do that, but you have the option to if you don't like this solution. 3 chests, a stockpile switch, 5 brass funnels, a filter, 2 andesite funnels, 6 pieces of redstone, 2 encased chain drives, 4 hoppers, a redstone comparator, 4 mechanical pumps, a clutch, a mechanical mixer, a basin, a blaze burner, 14 cogwheels, 2 gearboxes, 3 depots, a large cogwheel, an item drain, a smart fluid pipe, 9 fluid pipes, water bucket, another water bucket because we need an infinite source, a spout, 20 fluid tanks, 20 iron ingots, 4 oak stairs, or really stairs of any kind. I will say this is going to be used for containing the infinite water source. If you don't mind dropping it down a level, you don't need stairs, but it's up to you. And then the ingots right here are for making shears that we'll be going over later because we're going to need them for this. And then we have 64 dirt that we're going to simply use for building things around. We don't want to be breaking this glass. As I always say, I don't want to waste it. And a lot of this stuff is going to be in the air. So whatever block you want to be able to place stuff down and then get rid of it, that'll be good. I'm going to use glass because we are going to have to encase a few things like the cow. And I just like how the glass looks, but you can use any block you want. Then we're going to want birch logs, birch leaves, 1 thing of builder's tea. You don't necessarily need this, but it'll make your lives easier. So I would suggest maybe just manually slapping down the blaze burner, the basin, and the mixer before this, powering it up, getting 1 thing of builder's tea, and putting that into a bottle so you get out the regular builder's tea. And then a slime ball and some birch saplings. We're going to be using all this stuff pretty much down here for filters. So this will be obviously used for making the linear chassis sticky. These will be used for actually giving them to the setup. But these ones right here, these 3 will be used for setting filters appropriately. So just some things that you can have on top of all the requirements up here for the actual mechanical portion of the setup. And then I have this chest over here with just a couple extra things because the likelihood in this setup that I forgot 1 or 2 things that we're going to need, or we make some quick on-the-fly adjustments in the episode to streamline this, is very likely. And so instead of having to run all the way back down there, we got it right here. I'm just going to say that you guys should know that every episode when I go over the requirements for these big ones, they end up being maybe 1 or 2 off for some of these small things like shafts. So I thought ahead this time and I made some extras. So now we are going to grab out a couple things right here and just start assembling this. So majority of the stuff at the beginning right here is going to be required for setting up the tree harvesting portion of this setup. So I'm just going to grab out all the stuff that I can think we are going to need for this. And this should be pretty much good for now. I think we might need a little bit more from in here, but we can always come back for it. And then we are going to head into this room and come all the way over here. Now, I already have a thing of dirt set up, and it's raining out right now. What poor timing. Okay, and through the magic of video editing, the weather sounds are turned off, so we don't need to listen to that. Just a little story. I'm actually a huge fan of rain. I fall asleep every night to rain noises because I cannot do it when it's totally silent. So I know I've told you guys that before, but I love the sound of rain. But videos on YouTube do not, because it just sounds like white noise. So we're not going to listen to that. I just shut it off. It is raining outside though, apparently. But we have this area right over here to start in, and this dirt block is going to be where we grow our tree. Now, you might be wondering why we are doing a tree farm, and this is going to be important when we look at the recipe of builder's tea, because it is made in the mechanical mixer, and the requirements are to have some form of leaf, and then water, milk, and a heated blaze burner. Now, obviously, 3 things here are very easy, and 1 is not, and I'm sure you can already tell which they are. The heating, the milk, and the water are super duper easy. We've done all of those before. The automation is very simple. The difficult part are the leaves. And that comes because when you do automatic harvesting using the mechanical saw, you don't get leaves. You get the saplings, the leaves all go away. And so automating the collection of leaves fully is a very difficult thing to do. But we are going to be going over that today. That was the part that in the comments, people said that they were very interested in seeing how I do. And this is the part that a lot of people phone it in and they tell you just go get these leaves yourself. Could you do that? Yes. But are we lazy modded Minecrafters? Also, yes. So we're going to automate it and probably put in way more work than if we just walked outside and sheared a bunch of leaves. But you know what? That is the way we do it. So this farm right here is going to be using birch. I know I always hate on birch, but the one benefit is we can keep it as a very small tree by putting the ceiling 7 blocks above where the sapling is, and that will prevent the taller version from growing. And then birch also does not give apples. So the only thing that we need to worry about is an excess of saplings in the end that we'll be ditching and the sticks that we're not going to be using. Other than that, there's not really anything of concern to us. So if we used oak, we need to worry about the apples too. So we're going with birch. It's getting some love finally. But I'm going to give you guys an example of how this is going to work. So we're going to want to make sure we have ample room with the birch sapling to grow in this area. And again, you want to build up 7 from it and put down a block any lower and the tree won't grow. And this will prevent it from growing to the tall version. And that's important because there are 2 versions of birch trees. The tall one, which is going to have the leaves way up high, and the short one, which is going to have the leaves starting at 3 blocks off the ground. And they come in a very defined pattern. So we're going to be utilizing that to make sure we can gather some, but not all of the leaves. So for the setup for this, we are going to be going with my go-to strategy. Some of you might have seen me use this before, but I think it's the easiest way to effectively detect and utilize a redstone signal when a tree grows. And that is simply to have the area where the tree is going to grow. This really only works well when you're dealing with a single tree, but we're going to place down a redstone repeater, and then we are going to place down a redstone torch. And then finally, we are going to grab out a redstone link, put it down right over here, and as you can see, there is no signal going through. The birch sapling does not transmit a redstone signal. Now it's important to have this repeater because it needs to be pushing it through the block right here to get into this one. If you didn't have the redstone repeater and it was simply a redstone torch, even once this tree grows, it would not work. But when we have the redstone repeater here, it's pushing in, and when the tree eventually grows, the birch logs will be able to transmit the signal to the redstone link. And so we're going to use that as a continuous signal to indicate that the tree is grown and it needs to be chopped down. So now we come to the chopping mechanism portion of this, and we're going to be using one that will collect some leaves, but not all of them, because we need to have saplings to replant, and then it will also collect all of the logs and everything because we're going to use the logs to heat up the basin, and the ratio of logs to leaves we collect will be perfect, where we will get 5 logs from every tree and we will get 8 to 12 depending on how the tree grows, or 8 to 10 depending on how the tree grows, birch leaves. And so we will always have enough logs to process those because our setup running at 32 RPM, which we'll go over in a bit, is going to have at most 2 leaves processed per log. So if we max out at 10 leaves, that means we need to get 5 logs, and we will always get 5 logs. So it's great. It works out perfectly. So again, 2 birds with 1 stone. I think this is a super great solution. So once we have this setup done over here, we are going to come back, and right here, 3 blocks away, we are going to place down and rotate the mechanical saw so that it is facing, well, I just botched that one up. We're going to put it down, if we get it properly facing, right here. So we have the mechanical saw, and this is great because this will extend out, collect this tree, and we can pull it back. The next thing is we are going to put down a deployer right here on the back of this. So then we just need to rotate it so it's facing out the front. And if you don't know, deployers are not affected by the block in front of them. So you can have whatever block you want. They will still interact with 2 blocks in front of them. So right here. So the idea here is that this will collect the tree, and then the deployer will replant the sapling in its place. So we're just going to want to put a birch sapling right here as the filter on this. And then because this is going to be on a contraption, we're going to be in the position where these don't need to get rotational power, and we can slap a chest on the very back of it, and this will be able to pull the items from it, which is great. It saves us a ton of trouble. So the next thing we can do is start putting down linear chassis, and we're going to do this by putting 2 down directly behind this deployer, and we can actually we need to make at least one of these sticky, so we can do it with any of these that we want. We just need to make sure it's going to extend out to this mechanical saw right here. So we are going to want to, let's say, we can do it with this front one right here. We should be good to just collect this deployer, honestly. put down on this linear chassis on this side to make it sticky. And then we can put down our deployer again right here, oriented properly, and simply put that down. So if we were to go over this, you can see it's now connecting out to, it grabs both of these. We can even scale this down once we are done to make sure it only connects to both of these. But this linear chassis will also connect. I believe it was in a recent update that they made a very cool benefit to these, which is that you used to need to make them sticky when they were connected face to face like this, just not when they were connected side to side. But now this should stick totally fine right here without having to make it sticky. So that saves us a bit. Then we're going to come up one, and then we're going to come up another, and then we're going to build out two on each side. And then we got to grab out some dirt because, well, I didn't grab the dirt, so we need to go grab the dirt and then use it. But then we are going to come up and do another layer of this, and this will be where the leaf collection is going to happen. So let's get one up there, and then we can just build off of that. So just like that. So the idea here is we're going to make all of these sticky on the top here and place down 10 deployers. So make the faces of all of these sticky, and then place down all of our deployers facing out right here. And so what is going to happen here is this is going to extend. The tree leaves are going to be at this distance right here. And these deployers are going to collect using shears those leaves on the tree at the first row before this breaks the tree. So we're going to get 10, well, 8 to 10, depending on how the tree grows. I think it actually might be 6 to 10, but it maxes out at 10 because I don't believe either of these sides here on the far side need to grow leaves, but the central 2x3 does, is guaranteed. So we're guaranteed at least 6, and I believe we will have a max of 10 with this. And so these will gather those, then the tree will be chopped down. So it has ample leaves to give us saplings back. We'll have more than enough. We're also going to get the 5 oak logs, and then all that's going to happen is it will retract, the signal goes away, and plant another tree. So we can go through really quickly and just hold control and scroll these down to 1. We need to come down here then and scroll this one up to 2 just to make sure it's holding on to those. So now this whole thing should be good, and we can go about making all these effective for using shears. So for those of you that don't know, the deployers have different modes. So right here, this is the sort of placing mode. If we were to right click it this with a wrench, this is the using mode. You can see the hand looks a little bit different. If you wanted to use a tool like shears or a sword or something, that's how you do it. So we're just going to go through and make all of these so they use the shears on the leaves that they come in contact with. And then finally, we need to go grab our iron because we want to set the filter for the shears and eventually put them in. So I will say while we're doing this that I know a ton of you guys are going to comment that, oh, the shears have durability, and they do, right? Shears have 238 uses. And so right here, we're going to have to make 10, and eventually you will have to replace these. So if you really wanted to argue that it's fully hands-off automated, you would need to hook this up to an iron farm with a mechanical crafter setup to make more shears. But I'm going to argue that we can just say it's fully automated because with this, I've done out the math. You will have 238 uses on each of these. That will take forever to use up since they are only having one use every time the tree grows. And if all of these get consumed after 238 uses, you will end up having produced 4,700 things of builder's tea. So I challenge you guys to drink that much. You will have serious caffeine problems if you do. I don't think I will ever use that much. There is no way in this entire series I ever have to come close to replacing these shears. So I'm saying it's fully automated. But yes, you will eventually have to replace these after 238 tree growth cycles. So for those of you that want to argue till you're blue in the face that it's not fully automated, I will agree with you in that sense because why not? But now we need to worry about putting the chest down on the back of this. So we are going to, whoops, didn't want to scroll that up. We are going to make it sticky on this far right side here. And it is important that we do it over here. We only need one chest. It's not important like when we did the tunnel bore or anything to have multiple. This is going to unload every time it collects the tree. Every time it comes back, it'll drop it off. So this chest right here will be more than enough for this system. And this is where the shears and the saplings and the leaves and the, logs and everything will go. The saplings are going to stay in there. The shears will get pulled out at the very beginning when this starts running, and they will initially fill up these deployers, and those will be good. And then we're going to build off of this for a setup that is going to take all the items away to the rest of the setup. But before we do that, we need to worry about extending this, and that's going to require us to use the sticky mechanical piston. So we are going to place this down right here and make sure it is properly oriented into this setup, so it will push it out. And the way this works, if you don't know, is you need to supply this with piston extension poles. So we want it to be able to extend 3 blocks. So we build 3 piston extension poles off the back. We got a pole length of 3. Haha, we are 5 years old. Totally funny and amusing. No, guys, we are serious modded Minecraft experts. We are mature. That is not funny, obviously. But we have this now, so it's good to extend when we give it rotational force or rotational power. The problem is we need to extend it and pull it back depending on the signal. So the way we're going to do this is by putting down a gear shift so we can flip the rotation based on the signal. And then we are going to put down an adjustable repeater and another redstone link. Now, the reason that we are doing an adjustable repeater, and I'm just going to scroll this to 1 second, is because it can get a little bit buggy. When it goes out, the signal disappears and it immediately pulls back, with sometimes items losing their filters or the things they're holding, the deployer potentially not appropriately replanting this birch sapling here, any number of things. So by adding the delay, you give it time to complete its collection here and then stop and actually place down the contraption, because this mechanical saw, when it gets to this block, it is going to mine it before it reaches the end. When it gets to the end, then if it were given time to sit there, these would all become legitimate blocks. They are no longer a contraption until it gets pulled back. If we don't have this delay here, it will never do that. And so it runs into this weird situation where it's going out, it's going out, it's going out, no more signal, bam, it's coming back, and it has no pause time, which can cause issues. So now we're going to put down a redstone link right here that goes into that. We're going to shift right click to set it to receiving, and we're going to put a frequency on this for both of these of just the birch sapling, because it'll be easier to remember that the birch sapling over here corresponds to this. So now all we need to worry about is bringing rotational power over here, and we'll get to that later because it's going to be coming from this cogwheel right here. And we'll be transferring it through the collection setup that we're going to be setting up below this chest. Okay, so now we are on to the next portion of the setup, and this is the middleman between the tree collection portion and the mixer portion that will ditch the items we don't want, give us the items we do want, and also make sure we don't get overloaded with things like saplings in this chest. We can put these in right now. We can also make all of our shears right now because we can save ourselves some inventory space. So we'll just toss all these in. Like I said before, these are just going to go away once this runs 1 time, because they'll all be grabbed by these and open up some chest space in here. But we need to now start setting it up so that the system will detect when this chest is full or needs to have the items pulled out of it. And so we're going to come out here and we're going to get some smart chutes out in a regular chute, our cactus and our sand. And we're going to grab out our stockpile switch. We can grab out a mechanical belt and some shafts here, and I guess we're going to need our brass funnels, our filter. I think that's pretty much it for the time being. Trying to make sure that I get out the appropriate stuff, but what we're going to do here is put down a stockpile switch facing into this chest, and this one, okay, apparently I threw that out of my inventory. We're going to put this down right here. Now, obviously, this is reading a relatively high signal right now because we've got a bunch of single stack items in there filling it up. So we're going to want to come up to the top and set a filter of this strictly to birch saplings. So we can put this in here and immediately it goes down. This system is solely is going to be used for detecting when there are too many saplings in here, and we gotta ditch some of them, right? I'm feeling like that guy in SpongeBob in my favorite episode with the magic conch. I think it's so funny to watch. My fiance hates it, where the guy's like, we gotta drop the load, and hits the button and they launch everything out the back. That's what this part is going to be for, because yes, I'm immature. I think SpongeBob is one of the best TV shows ever created. At least the original seasons. And I'm realizing now we need some redstone dust here. But we're going to set this up so that it registers when this is too high. And I'm going to say a good level is probably about 10%. And then down here, we're going to set this to maybe 5%. So it's not going to take much to get to the point. You could probably honestly up it to, let's do 15 and 10, because we're never going to have more than a stack of logs and leaves in there that are used up. It won't even be a stack. It'll be 5 and maybe 10 of these, but they each are going to take up a space. So we've got plenty of room for the saplings. We just want to make sure they don't fill this up till a point where it stops working. So what we're going to do then is put down a smart chute directly below this. And you can see I made the mistake. It drops everything out. But We're then going to put down a block over here, and I probably should have grabbed some other kind of block, but we'll use dirt, and we're going to put down dust right there, and then we are going to invert this signal. So what this will do is transfer very easily from this stockpile switch so that when this gets to above 15%, it drops down here. There's no more signal, and then stuff can come out of this smart chute. And we obviously then need to grab this stuff back and filter out saplings and then dump all this junk back in there because I'm not super smart, apparently. So very easy way to just transfer the signal down here. This will deactivate, and then because we need to drop this onto a cactus, which is going to need to be further down in the ground, we're going to use a chute right here. And I am so used to my inventory being full that we do not have an axe right here to use. So we are just going to come down here, and we want to make sure we destroy the saplings. So we're going to need to drop down, and we'll put it right here. We'll just mine out these because obviously you need to have the area around the cactus without blocks there. So we'll put down our sand here. Again, this could be lava. Lava is a very easy solution, but these chutes are great because they will allow the item to just drop straight out of it onto this cactus here. And so we'll give an example later to test that it works. I'm not going to do it right now though, just because I don't have a bunch of stuff to spare. Well, I guess we can do it right now that I think of it. So let's get out. So there's only, no. Yeah, we can do that because there's a filter on it. I'm flipping back and forth, guys. So we have 15 saplings. Let's say we want to ditch these. If I were to, let's say, break this redstone signal right here, so this is the imitation of it going off, you can see they drop down, they get destroyed, nothing else comes out of here, and so it works perfectly. Nice, good verification, just wasted some saplings. Not like they're very valuable, though. They're birch, so everyone hates them. Probably going to get some flack in the comments for that one. Oh, you know what we can do? Look at this, guys. Problem solving. We have nothing in here that can go away. Let's get this, and we can use the wood that was below there. Oh my gosh, guys. I am so smart. That is crazy. Okay, so there we go. Now we are ditching those appropriately. That's all great. Now we have the rest of the items, which will be the leaves, which are super important to this setup. The logs, also important. And the sticks, right? The gross sticks. So we're going to want to come out from this shaft right here and build onto right in front of the chest, but down one. I'm actually going to get rid of these. We do not want this rotating right now, but we're going to eventually be bringing a belt system that uses a funnel off the side of this. Now we can slap down the funnel right now for the time being. This will eventually eject onto the belt once it's there. Obviously, when we flip it, these are going to all start falling out, unfortunately. So we need to set a filter for this. And we are going to come in and we're going to use the overpowered ability of being able to use JEI to set the filter for things you don't have. Obviously, we have some of these. So we've got the birch leaves. We want those coming out. We got the birch logs. We want those, but we need the sticks. Oh my gosh. So we want to get those and also make it appropriate for those to come out. We just want to make sure that no saplings ever end up on this line. So we're going to put this here. We also want to make sure that no shears do when we eventually start this out. So now you can see nothing's coming out. We can dump all this stuff back in there, no issue. But if we were to put birch leaves in there, those come out. So these will be dumping onto this belt system right here. And the main purpose of this will be to dump the sticks and then bring the logs and the leaves further over. So we're going to be using another smart chute to dump the sticks. And this one is going to be down one block, so we don't need the regular chute. And we can put it, we could put it right here if we really wanted to. It doesn't really matter. I think we should have more than enough room. It's occurring to me now that I need to actually get a stick for this. So we should probably head over and grab that. I knew I was going to forget something, but apparently I forgot a stick. And so I should have some in this chest over here because it's been running and collects. Yep, I have a ton of excess over here. So we can grab those. Not that we need a stack, but we've got more than enough now because we need to set the filter on this. I told you guys I was going to forget something. If it's only sticks for this episode, I take that as a win. But we want those coming out. As the belt runs over it, they will fall right down. And then again, we just need to make our way under here and place down the same cactus setup we were using before. Like I said, we don't need another chute just because it's already open over there, which is great. Saves us having to mine that. And we don't need another chute because it's already at ground level. And obviously we don't want to risk picking up items if we're in here or having to watch the items fall through. Oh, such a peasant thing to do. So now these sticks will drop out in there and totally get voided too. So now that we have this set up to get rid of the sticks, we can complete the belt system and bring all the rest of the items over. And we're going to come over 7 blocks from this shaft right here to place down the final one. This will give us ample room. You could probably reduce that by about 1 or 2, but because we've got this extension pole and stuff right here, and we're going to be working with some redstone and stuff coming off this side, we're going to go with 7. And so we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then we'll just put this down so we can put down the shaft right up here. And this is where it's going to finish off for this one. So we can connect these belts together right here. Obviously, this doesn't have a direction now, which is great. It's not going to randomly dump items out. And this track is going to finally end at the basin. So we can, well, we don't have the basin right now. So we can go out and grab a few more things because we can start assembling the rest of this. We're going to grab out our encased chain drives. We're going to grab out our blaze burner, our basin, our mechanical mixer. And I think that should be pretty much good for now. We can also grab out our andesite funnels. So we're going to start out by placing down the blaze burner, and this is going to go up 1 block from the ground so that it's right at the same level as this mechanical belt. So we're going to throw that down right there, and then we're just going to hop up with some dirt and place down our basin and our mechanical mixer right on top of this. So basin right here, mechanical mixer right there. The main purpose of this being we want to be able to dump items right in here. Obviously, this chute would go away manually, or not manually, go away automatically the minute this belt starts rotating in this direction, but we'll remove it on our own. Now, eventually, we'll set the filter of this to builder's T. It doesn't really matter, but the idea here is we want the leaves to be going into this basin right here, and we want the logs to be coming out at this portion of the setup right here. So we're going to put down a funnel right here, and it's going to dump out, and we are then going to put down 2 shafts right here. So this needs to be one before the final block of the belt. And this is where our second belt system is going to go. It's only going to be 2 long. And this is going to go with a hopper. We got to grab out the hopper now. One of the hoppers. And it's going to go into a deployer that's going to act on this blaze burner. So because it needs to be 2 blocks in front of it, we've got the deployer. We'll have to rotate this so it's pointing in to the blaze burner. This is what's going to power it. And then we've got this here. We're going to put a hopper in there. This is an internal inventory already of 1 stack. So we don't need to worry about this being buffer storage. We just want to make sure that this is 1 block away from here, because if the leaves come out first, we need to make sure that if there are 16 plus leaves in here for some odd reason and another set gets stuck right here, we need the logs to be able to make it into this portion so that they can continue cooking heating the basin so that we can make the builder's T. If this was one further up, you run the risk that if leaves get stuck here, because this is full of leaves already, you won't get any fuel in here. This prevents that. So we're going to want to set our filter on this brass funnel right here to be our birch logs, and then we're going to use an andesite funnel to go into this hopper. So this will dump the items in. We just need to make sure that we use our wrench to make sure it's going up into the hopper. Then these will dump into the deployer, and the deployer is going to act on the blaze burner. So I had to quickly go and grab a little bit more oak planks to work with, just because we're going to have to build this up a little bit, but we are going to be working with a very similar setup to what we've done in the past with the blaze burner. So we're going to be building out right here, and we're going to be using a comparator to determine when the blaze burner is heated and when it's not. Now, the reason that this is important is because we do not want to waste fuel. And if we allow it to, the deployer will continue using the birch logs on this blaze burner, because the logs will only bring this to a base level of heating of 1. Technically there's 4 levels of heating. There is not heated, there's semi-heated, there's heated, and then there's superheated. The logs, until we supply enough of them, will only bring this to the second level of being semi-heated, not actually heated. So this deployer will continue using the logs and wasting them on this until it's fully heated. And so we don't want that to happen. So we are going to read with a comparator when this is heated. For those of you that don't know, a comparator will output a signal based on if this is in fact heated. And for the initial level of semi-heated, it only outputs a signal of 1. So what we're going to do is use a redstone repeater right at the end of this, and then bring this all the way around, and we are going to bring the redstone coming around like this. We're going to use another repeater here so it doesn't reconnect to the comparator itself, and we're going to have to make it so that there is a clutch on the side of this deployer that shuts it off. So the rotational power coming in the side here, we're going to have a clutch, and we're going to run the redstone directly into this. So what will happen here is every time this fuels the blaze burner and it's burning and it's enough to heat this basin up to make the builder's tea, this will output a signal. This will power it so it can travel far enough. If we didn't have this here, only this thing of redstone would be powered and it would never make it around. This will boost the signal. This prevents it from connecting with the comparator. Get to this clutch and stop this from moving. And then the minute that this runs out of heat again, this will power it again. And that is how we make sure that we are never running into an issue where all 5 logs will be used each for 2 leaves worth of mixing. And we're able to verify that every tree, oh, and one already grew. But we're able to verify that every single tree will be able to have just enough logs to process all the leaves potentially. As you can see here, this one, we'd only get 9 from. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. One didn't grow there. So we're 1 away from the max, which means we need all 5 logs to process it. And this makes it so that can happen. Now we need to worry about getting the water and the milk in the basin because we've got the leaves coming in, we've got it heated. Now we need the water and the milk. And so we are going to set up the water one pretty easily using our mechanical pumps, using some fluid pipes, our stairs, and some water buckets. And we'll come to the rotational power later, not too concerned with that right now. But we're going to be putting down the mechanical pump coming out the side right here. We can worry about the direction of rotation later because the cogwheels could totally screw this up. But we're going to want to make sure it's facing in here because it's pulling the water out. And then we're going to run fluid pipes back and we need them to come down. And right here, we can set up our infinite water source. And if you guys don't know, you can waterlog stairs and they still work. And the reason stairs are so great is because you can build them. If I could do this properly, I can set them up so that they form a perfect, how does this work? I'm trying to make the angle properly here. Okay, they don't want to connect. I don't, why do they not want to connect? I feel like I'm placing these down wrong. Maybe we need to do it in a checkerboard, or not a checkerboard, but kind of like a spiral pattern. So this one's that way. What if we do this one this way? This one this way, this one. Oh, guys, got it. Nailed it. We got it. Who knew that would have been the hardest part of this setup? Then we are going to waterlog the stairs like this. Infinite source is made, and this can pull from it. Even though it doesn't look like it should, it looks like it's going to suck up some serious wood chips here in our water. It'll be fine. This will pull from it as long as we power this mechanical pump. So our water setup is good to go. That's great. And now we need to worry about getting the milk. Now, there's no way I lead this cow over here on camera, but we're going to be doing our simple setup that we always do with our item drain, our depots. We got our funnels and our filters and all that jazz, and we're going to get this cow over here. We are going to need to milk him once right now because we do need to have something to set a filter with. But we're going to come over and put our mechanical pump again on this side facing in here. We'll have to check on it again later. Put our fluid pipe, and then we're going to need to put our item drain, and this will go right here coming out of our fluid pipe. This is what's going to get the milk from the bucket and put it into the system. This will drain the bucket, and so then we are going to take 2 depots, one right here, one right here, and then we're going to put a deployer down on top. So we need to kind of shimmy our way up here if we can manage it. We'll make a nice staircase up here. So we need to put the deployer somewhere down up here. It doesn't really matter where it's facing. I'm going to put it facing, nope, that's not right. Let's put it down. If we put it down like this, it should be facing us, right? Yep. So there's fine. And now we need to have the cow. So the cow is right here, which means we're going to want to encase it. So we have glass right here, glass right here, glass on this side. And I'm doing it, guys. I'm wasting the glass. I'm just doing it because I'm being lazy. But the cow is going to go right here. So I need to lead him up here right now real quick and then encase him in. But we'll do I guess the funnels and stuff for this first. So we want the deployer to only use empty buckets. So we want to set quickly the filter on this for empty buckets. It'll use that on the cow. And then we need to put down a brass funnel on the front of this. So we're going to put that down right. Oh, you know what? That's why we don't need glass there. Right. We need to put down the brass funnel. That'll be sufficient. I was wondering why we had glass there and it looked weird. Brass funnel goes there, not glass. And this will eject onto this depot. And we need the filter on this to be set to the milk bucket. So we only want milk buckets to come out of here onto this depot. Then down here, we're going to use another one of our hoppers in our inventory and have it going into this item drain. So this will put the milk bucket on here. It'll roll across, dump the milk. And then finally, we need to make sure that this brass funnel is on this side. Going into this depot, we want to check that it's going up. And here we want to set it to an empty bucket because we're going to put multiple buckets in here. It's going to end where we actually have a full milk bucket sitting on the drain, waiting for there to be room in here for milk to go in. So we want to make sure that it's sitting there waiting and only emptied buckets come back up here. And then finally here we get to use the nice andesite funnel because the empty buckets are going to be coming up here and we don't need to worry, those all go into the deployer. Just make sure that we rotate the andesite funnel. Again, I always say this because I know some people are new here, to make sure the arrow is pointing in the direction you want it to go. So it's like basically a circle, a pretty scuffed circle, but a circle. So it goes there, collects, goes down, drains, comes back up, and circle. So now we need to lead the cow up here. It was horrible on camera when I did it with the cake factory. So here it's going to be horrible too, but I will get our buddy up here. And through the magic of video editing, he will be here in a hot second. You're not going to watch me scream and go through that pain on camera though. I apologize. Oh my gosh. Okay, guys, we got him. He's in there. Oh, okay. Give me the lead back. Let's close you in, bud. I'm sorry. This is your life now. I am so sorry. Get in there a little bit further. Come on. I was apologizing. Now I'm shoving you further in. Okay. Well, whatever. Okay. He's in there. Now we can get rid of this monstrosity that is dirt coming all the way up here. We are done with this portion of the setup. All we got to do is load our buckets in there and it is good to collect all of that. So we can go into, oh, the lead's still in there. Well, whatever. It'll despawn or I can go grab it real quick. Yep. There we go. And then we can load the buckets in here. So perfect example would be if we were to put a milk bucket in here, it will come, it will drain out, and then it will go back up. So if we wanted to get around here, because I'm smart and I have to go all the way around now, the second bucket can go in here simply by putting it on this depot so that it gets put in there. So if we were just to jump up and if I could right click on it, there we go. Okay, so now it's ready to go. There's 2 buckets in here. I suggest 2. You don't need to go any more than that. Apparently, I did not pick up the lead. What the heck? Okay, well, I want my lead back. So, because we're leading animals all over the place all the time. So we're coming up here and we're getting this lead. There we go. I don't know what I picked up before. It must have just been dirt. But now we are going to get all the milk we could possibly need from this bad boy. Coming in here, we got the milk, we got the water. Now we need to pull out the builder's tea. And so we're going to grab out, we should pretty much be able to grab out all the rest of the stuff from in here and start giving this stuff rotational power and whatnot. We're going to be setting the filter with the builder's tea on this. I don't think you need to, but I'm going to do it just so it only makes builder's tea. And then we're going to put down doesn't really matter the order you do these in. So we could do a mechanical pump first over here, then a smart fluid pipe right here. And this one we want to make sure is set to builder's tea on the filter. Nope, we don't want to drink that. That would be a massive screw up because I don't have more of those. I only made 1. So we're going to put this on here so it only pulls out builder's tea, none of the other fluids. And we want this to be coming out here. And this is going to go eventually into our tank setup. So we should be able to do that right here, I think. So we're going to do our typical 4x4 and then just build it up just like that. This should be more than enough storage for it. So super nice right there. This will deposit it. Now we need to start giving all this stuff rotational power. So starting from the beginning, we can see this is given a redstone signal, which is super cool. But starting from the beginning, we are going to, and we'll get to see this in action, grab out our shafts right here, bring it all the way over like this, and then just connect these with a belt. This is our final belt system right here. And we will watch as, once we connect these over here, we will get to see as it extends. So we need to connect these right here so we can see it coming out. Okay guys, so we are back and it has been quite some time since that last clip where things just went horribly wrong, and I am now here to explain why. Now it can't be a great explanation because it's due to a bug, but I figured out what will fix it, and so I am going to make a note of that, and you will have already seen it earlier in the video when I'm first setting this up, but now is the time to explain why, and also show you that I had to make some serious adjustments to this room and move everything over like 10 or 15 blocks so that this would work. And you might have an idea then of what's going on because of how I had to move it over, but if we press F3 and G, we can see that it's going to be related to chunk borders and actually functioning in the same versus different chunks as where it was set up. Now, it just so happens that I guess you could say I got lucky when I was setting this up in a creative world and it worked perfectly because I set it up on a chunk border accidentally. Now, in reality, it's probably actually unfortunate that that happened because I came into this episode recording thinking it worked perfectly without having to fiddle around with this. Hence why when I started recording the video and we had that initial section, it had to be an annotation on there to fix it because I didn't realize it at the moment. So always unfortunate when I have these crazy cool builds that earlier on in the video. It's the same thing with the Quarry one. Something should work, it doesn't. We have to go back and fix it later and then annotate earlier on in the video just so people don't mess it up and get 30 minutes down the line and have to do what I just did. If you do, I apologize, but basically what happens is if you have this contraption all set up and you do not move it to a new chunk from where it starts, these deployers with these shears or anything in there like a pickaxe to gather stuff or anything will not work if there is a mechanical saw that is also starting in the same chunk as them and they don't go to a new chunk. So right here, you can see that because these are starting in this chunk and then we'll move to this one to collect these leaves, this will be fine. It would be fine if this mechanical saw was back here too. I actually only extended this one more because there's another thing that happens where apparently if I have the same setup, for some reason, certain times they will only gather this first row of leaves, other times they will gather both. There's no rhyme or reason behind it. So the two things that we need to make sure happen is first off, we need to make sure that this crosses over a chunk border when it goes to collect the tree. I don't know why it happens again, guys, but it does. So I figured that out and now this should work. And then at the same time, you want to make sure that these deployers with these shears only collect the first row of leaves on this tree. You don't want two, otherwise you're going to have way too many leaves for the amount of fuel you have for your blaze burner. So in this case, I just tacked on an additional linear chassis down here to extend this over one. These mechanical saw and deployer can be in the same chunk, they can be in the other chunk, it doesn't matter, but these deployers up here need to move chunks when they go to collect the leaves. So make sure you have that. You're probably going to want to do a test run because I have no way to tell you if a deployer is going to gather the first row or two. In my creative world, I had the exact setup we did initially with this only having two linear chassis and it only collected the first row. I set it up again in this world and finally get it working and I have two linear chassis on the bottom here and it collects both rows. So I have no idea why that happens, but you do have to test it out and verify that it does in fact only gather one first row of them and then gets the tree. But everything else in here should be exactly as we left it. It was a horrible pain to move everything. So I will say if you guys could drop a like on the video, that would be greatly appreciated. This one is probably the longest I've had to spend recording a single episode in forever, unfortunately. But now we should be able to finish this off and I'm going to try and make it quick. So we were getting rotational power hooked up to this. The first thing that we should probably do though is put down a brass funnel going into the basin so the items can go in here. And we don't need to worry about the direction, and we just put the birch leaves in there too. So we now have, so the birch leaves can go in here just because in this chest right here, we're going to collect some and they're going to pop out here when we give it rotational power because there is a tree grown and we want them to go in the basin. Everything else should be working fine. We actually probably want to give this rotational power first too, because items aren't going to pop out here and they'll accidentally get stuck if we don't do that. So we're just going to put down a shaft right here, and then we're going to take our two encased chain drives, slap one like this, and you can see it goes in the correct direction, bringing them over to this. Now we should be good to bring our rotational power from here over, just like we were doing when the issue occurred, and we should be able to hook this belt on and see the system run. So now it comes out, these gather the first one. Again, they still gather the first one. If I let them go the same distance, they would gather both, but you can see how it works. Now everything's good, it actually functions. I don't get the chunk boundary thing. I should actually remove those. But don't ask me why, but I figured it out. I'm pretty proud of myself for that one. But you can see in here, if we put more saplings in, these will stay. It gained 2 saplings there and planted a new one. And then over here, the items should have come through. And this one is ready to heat this up. And we should have the leaves in the basin here. I am going to wait to hook up power to this for this clutch right here until we actually have water and milk coming in here. So until all these mechanical pumps are hooked up, just because I don't want to waste the logs that we just got because we need them to process these leaves. So now we are going to get power to all these mechanical pumps, and this is really easy to do. We're simply going to put down a regular gearbox right on top of the basin. Again, the mechanical mixer, as we've talked about in previous episodes, is not affected by a block being here, so this will still mix. And it lets us quickly throw down cogwheels on all of these right here so that these all get rotational power. Now we got to make sure that these are pulling and pushing fluids in the correct direction once they're eventually hooked up to this, but I don't think that should be any issue. Then for this deployer right here, we're going to put down 2 cogwheels to bring it up here. So that should be good. So now we need to get rotational power up to that mixer and then connect all of this to the belt system so that we can begin getting rotational power to the rest of the setup. So the way that we're going to do this is actually very simple. We're going to come up here, place down a vertical gearbox off the only available side on this horizontal one, and then a cogwheel coming right off that. The direction doesn't matter, so that's great. And then finally, we are going to hop in here and we're going to connect this mechanical pump right here to this belt. And so we'll just put down 2 cogwheels like that and everything starts spinning. Now we got to make our way out of here and we can just do that right over here. We need to break this and make sure it doesn't end up on the belt so it doesn't clog up our entire setup. But yeah, so now everything should be running. The important thing is we need to verify that these are all pulling liquids in the correct direction. So the only one, so these 2 are good. This one is not though. So we need to flip this and now it should be pulling the milk out of here. Yep, there we go, that it was collecting. And yep, okay, so we can see more is now being processed. That's great. And now in here, we should have water, milk, and leaves. We can't see them because it's completely covered, but we have leaves that have come in over here. So if we were to hook up this clutch right here, this would start getting powered and everything would start running. So that's really the last step that we need to do. And so it might be a little bit wonky, but we're going to hook that clutch up and we're also going to put a mechanical pump eventually over here, but we want to make sure that we're orienting it properly. So we're going to be using a large cogwheel coming down here to this clutch, connected to a regular cogwheel right up there. And we have 2 options here, right? We can either come up here or go down here. Both of them will transfer rotational power to this. So yeah, so I think the best way is just to come here so that we save some uses of the cogwheel. We need 2 to come up there, only 1 here. So you can see now that it is powering this. It halted itself. The mechanical mixer is mixing. We have builder's T. That should then get pulled out over here if we have this set up properly. Okay guys, so I swear I tested this out before and it was all working fine, but apparently the smart fluid pipe needs to come first and then the mechanical pump. You can't do the mechanical pump, then the smart fluid pipe. I thought it would apply the filter to everything, but I guess it needs to be directly adjacent to the area where it's going to pull out the fluid, and that's what puts it into the container over here. Now we do need to build this up further because I didn't finish building this off right there. But now everything should be good. Now the way I fixed that was just by changing this cogwheel to a shaft, and so we didn't need one here. Everything else just functions exactly the same. I think we are probably going to run into some issues because we were heating this when we weren't able to pull builder's T out and actually mix it. So you can see now it's producing it, but there's going to be a period of time where we have too many leaves in here. So we'll probably have to deal with that so that it doesn't get backed up. But now we have the fluid tank over here filling up. Obviously it's getting, multiple buckets of builder's tea, which is, tens of actual drinks of builder's tea. So that's great. Now we need to fill up these drinks and it's pretty easy to do. We're going to use some fluid pipes and another mechanical pump coming off of this. And now that the setup is a little bit different, I'm going to try and figure out how I want to do this. I think we should still be fine to put this right here like I had planned. We're just going to rotate it. Nope, it doesn't want to connect on this side. There we go. We got to place it down by shift placing it. And then the easiest thing that we can do is just come up here, and this looks a little bit wonky, but we're just going to put down a bunch of cogwheels so it can start pulling stuff out. And we should probably get rid of one of these so it doesn't start spilling it out right here. But this should be able to pull stuff out if we set it in the correct direction. And we're going to want to pull it over to the wall over here. So we're just going to put, if I have enough, I think, no, we need one more. So thankfully I have the chest out here with extra stuff. Some of those were fluid pipes. We need one extra. So we're going to be pulling it over here. And now we can come out here and work on the filling area. So we're going to be putting down a spout right here. And we'll do, where is it? we should be able to, we should probably actually come up one before we put down the spout. So we'll put it right here, and we'll get rid of this, and we'll put down pipes just like that so that we can put the spout down. Actually, we don't need pipes all the way on the top. Why did I do that? We only need pipes coming on the back. But we'll do it, whoops, put the spout down right there and do it like this because we need it to be up like that. Then we're going to put the depot down right here. This will fill from the spout. And then we are going to get rid of these blocks right down here. I don't think there's anything under this. Oh, there is. Okay. I know in some areas here there's nothing under it because we go out of the mountain. But then we're going to have a smart chute, and we'll put that there. We're going to set the filter to builder's T on this because we only want filled ones to drop down. And then we are going to put a hopper going into a chest right here. So we need to break our way in here, unfortunately. And we should be able to put that down. Got to replace all this junk right here. Okay, so there we go. We can put glass back here. So what will happen is once we have a setup at least with hoppers, and we'll do this in a hot second, to put glass bottles on here, the spout will fill it, and then they will only come down when they're completely full and go into this chest. So that's where we're going to grab them. Now, how you want to set up the system to put the glass bottles in here is up to you. I think it looks cleanest if you put it on the back here and then put the chest on top of it. Oops. Like that. So then we just fill this with glass bottles. And we can go grab those if we want from the setup over on the side with the potions, but we want to make sure that everything in here is working properly. And I think the last portion of the setup is just to attach this right here. And then as we saw, we're going to have to make sure it's flipped properly, and it should start pulling out from here and filling up the spout. It's going to take a little bit. We can see the particle effects going there. And now if we were to drink this builder's tea, nice and refreshing. We get back a glass bottle. We toss it in there. That puts it out here. It gets refilled, and now we have more. So if I wanted to go and craft some of this glass in excess of bottles, you're only going to need so many. You can recycle them. There's no reason to have a ton in there. But now the whole setup is working. If we wanted to, we would be able to, no, we don't have any bone meal on us right now, unfortunately. But you do have the option, if you want to make this a lot faster and get a ton of it built up, you do have the option of setting up a deployer over here to apply bone meal to the sapling. I'm fine just letting it grow naturally. Obviously, we already have, even though it hasn't been running much, we already have, it's so wonky trying to read what is in these, but we have 5,250 millibuckets. That is more than enough builder's tea. For every bucket you get 4. So right now we are going to have 21 things of builder's tea if we wanted to drink it, and I am totally fine with that. We also have whatever is in the internal storage over here, so another 1,000. So technically we actually have 6,250. So that means that we have 25 things of builder's tea, and I AFK all the time, so it'll fill up. But that is going to be the finalized setup for today, guys. This one took a crazy amount of time to get going and figure out how to make it work. And clearly it had its ups and downs with the bug over here. I apologize for that. I had no way of knowing until we set it up in this world that it was just, happenstance that it worked in the creative one that I was using to test it and plan. Also, you want to make sure that you actually drop it. My ceiling was 1 too high. My ceiling was actually 8 high. You want to make sure it's actually 7 high above the block. So as you can see right here, if we went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then the ceiling, we actually want it to be 7 up for the actual block. So that's why I have an additional one there. Otherwise, it's going to grow too tall. So another little correction. If you did my math properly, you'd be able to set it up correctly. But if you looked at how many blocks are on my wall and how tall the ceiling is, you'd also mess it up. But I apologize for the super long video today, guys. I tried to keep it short, but this is a crazy huge build. If you try to use this in your world and you run into issues, feel free to let me know, and I will try and help you guys out. I suspect it'll be due to those bugs and just working through it, but hopefully you enjoyed it. And please, if you guys could, be sure to drop a like and, give the video a comment and let me know what you think of it. This was, even harder than the quarry to actually get working. It was so much stuff. And so I always love it when you guys, enjoy and appreciate some of these crazy builds because they are a ton of work to do. So that's going to be for today, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed today's episode, and I will talk to you later.